Hello and welcome. It's Iron Port. It is proudly brought to you by Ghana Community Network Services, GCNet, Ghana Oil Company Limited, GOIL, and West Blue Consulting Media Partner, Business and Financial Times. People, we have been hearing almost all the time that the port of Ghana is the best in West Africa, is the best in the Central African region and all of that. But to what extent are we able to harness the potential of the Ghana ports industry? Now, can we also compare ourselves to the Singapores, the Rotterdams, and the way they have taken and harnessed the potential of the industry in those countries? Are we doing same in this country? This week, we're going to have a very frank conversation with a man who has known this industry in this country for a very long time. He's a former head of the legal committee of the International Maritime Organization and currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Shipping, Dr. KOFI. Are we getting the system of shipping or the business of shipping right as a country?
We're not doing badly, but there is a lot more that we can do.
Okay.
You know, in many countries, I can tell you that shipping has been the driver for economic growth in those countries, in many countries. I mean, if you take the Netherlands, you know, the port of Rotterdam, you know, it is, if you like, a beehive of activity that generates a lot for not only Rotterdam as a city, but also for the entire Netherlands in terms of what it does for it. If you take Antwerp, you can talk about the same thing. If you take the port of Singapore, drivers,
economies are changing because of the port
industry. And I believe the same can happen for most of us in Africa and in Ghana in particular. You know, especially if you look at where we started from. Way back 1957, we had our own shipping line. You know, we had our own airlines. We had our own dry dock. You know, we had our port. We had developments, both Tema and Takoradi. And so, by this time, obviously, we should have harnessed the potential of shipping more than we have done presently.
Why haven't we been able to harness the tremendous potential of the ports like other countries have done?
I think we've been a little slow, you know, like many other countries in Africa. We have been a little slow as well in terms of the measures that we have put in place, in terms of the strategies we have put in place. And I must say that for a lot of the developed economies who realize the potential of shipping as a means by which they can propel their economies, they looked at a comprehensive policy that takes account of the entire gamut of maritime trade and transport, the interlinkages that exist between these. And therefore, they look at it in the cluster approach so that your fishing, you know, is integrated with your oil and gas. Your oil and gas is integrated with your boat building. It is integrated with your port facilities, with your cargo, and so that all of the things are interrelated, connected. So you have a cluster approach in which you can have synergies, one from the other. So the advantages that exist, which can be derived from one, then rub on others as well. We need a policy that takes account of shipping itself, that takes account of the environment, that takes account of maritime security, that takes account of safety, that takes account of trade facilitation, that takes account of infrastructure. You know, because you need these things to be in place, and you have to have them from the perspective of policy first and foremost. And then, once you have looked at the policy, you look at what legislative framework do we put in place? Because you require legislation to give bite or teeth to these. When you have put in place an appropriate legislative framework, you need to look at what are the administrative mechanisms, what are the institutions that need to work to drive these policies to function. You know, if you look at the industry, I mean, Sam, you look at our lagoons. You know, you look at Takoradi, Tema. There is business to be made here. There is business to be made.
But we've just left them idle.
We've just left it.
And not dealing with them.
We can have marine parks. We can have mariners. We can have boat building. We can have yards. We can have. There is so much.
My problem is
within the industry.
Why don't we have these policies? Because the little I have come to know within the very short time that I have been in the industry, I have noticed a number of policies being thrown out there. Sometimes they come in, they get shelved. Sometimes they are able to push them through, but they don't deal with the core
underlying
issues within the industry.
A lot of these are normally response to situations, and therefore they are knee-jerk reactions.
Okay.
So something happens,
then
we introduce a policy. That's what the point I'm making. That if you have a comprehensive maritime policy that looks at all of the issues. Today, sometimes people say, look, why don't we have a flag of convenience so that we open our registry and allow vessels to come in, come and register? Yeah. Look, one day someone may wake up and say, yes, it's a good idea. Let us go with it. And then we decide and then we go with it. And then along the line, we come and realize pitfalls. That's what I'm talking about. Ad hoc stuff, knee-jerk reactions. We want to meet situations as and when they come. The point is that there should be an overarching policy. So that policy should be talking, as I said, not only about the environment, about fishing, about oil and gas, but interconnecting all
disciplines and areas
within
the port.
And then you have an appropriate institutional framework that will be handling each of these. Anyone who has been to Singapore will tell you about Clark Keys.
Yeah.
From morning till evening. From morning till evening. Business is going on. People are selling. People are buying. Boats are being repaired. Things are being done. And then you are generating an economy around these things. Yeah. I'm not against social intervention, but we should be a little loath with social interventions. Try and see how we can use the opportunities we have so that the private sector, with the environment created, would now come and invest in these areas.
You have seen quite a number of governments, and you have worked for them as well, not just even seeing them. About 4 regimes on the count, spreading over a period of 20 years. Do you think that governments over the period have thought about how to thoroughly deal with this sector, having a proper structure that governs the industry?
No, with all respect and deference, to all the governments,
to
all the governments, we have not placed it at the place where we need to put it. As I said, shipping is a driver of economies. There is no doubt about that anywhere in the world. Remember that over 80 to 90% of all of the things we consume here, they come by sea.
Yeah.
Yes. The ports themselves, as I said, they are a critical infrastructure, as it were, for whatever goes on in the country. So how we position the shipping industry in the scheme of things, so that in terms of prioritization, I wouldn't have money to deal with everything. But in terms of prioritization, this one would engage my attention more than others. And that is where you focus, hoping that that one can be the goose that lays the golden egg.
So what then is the problem? Why the apathy?
You and I talk not like politicians. You may talk as an economist. You may talk as a business person. That is not the way politicians see it.
No, but that's the problem because, for instance, you listen to vetting interviews and you listen to the debates that the so-called politicians engage in, and they all seem to know, for instance, that the port industry is very huge. And they all seem to think that let's place priority on it. I'll just give you an example of the gentleman who is supposed to be the special prosecutor, Martin Amidu. When I listened, I chanced on his interview, his vetting, who said that he believes that if we tackle all the challenges within the port industry, the national economy will tremendously boost. This man is aware. Yet when you are looking for solutions, and he's not alone, a lot of people at the top there are aware.
So I'm saying when you sit where you and I sit, and then we don't go for votes, it's a little different.
Yeah.
For those who go for votes, a certain road over there that has not been done becomes their priority. My point is that, look, let that road suffer for now. Tomorrow we will do that road.
Fix it.
We'll fix
with
it.
ease.
We'll fix it. Tomorrow it will fix itself.
Proven example.
Because we have given attention to that which deserved our utmost attention. And then will have a trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
And that would consequently touch upon the other areas. But as I said, you and I can think like that. But because of where we sit, for the politician, that road that has not been done ought to be fixed. Urgently. And the resources
and
cannot cover
for that matter.
because they ought to sort it.
The resources are not enough to do it properly. Doc, so look at this for me. Is it so difficult to change the scheme of things, reforms within the port? Is it all that broken to the extent that it's so difficult to assemble and pick pieces? It's
bent but not broken. In all of these things, there is relativity. You look at where you have come from. You try to compare it with others in the same bracket and then see what you are doing. And largely, I would say we haven't done badly, especially when we compare ourselves with others in the same bracket. But when we look beyond others who are far above us and look at what mechanisms, what systems, what structures we are putting in place, then that is where it becomes imperative for us to see whether there shouldn't be a paradigm shift from that thinking which tries to resolve the nitty-gritties of today without looking at the big picture of tomorrow. And so consequently, we make sacrifices for today thinking about the returns of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that is where we fail.
If you are called upon to look at the entire industry at the moment, right now, and you are told that the state doesn't have enough money to begin with infrastructure, but we need something to be done to harness the potential of the industry, what would you start with?
Yes, that's a good one. And I must say that it's a very difficult one, but I'll speak from the perspective not of a politician.
Okay.
We can't deal with all of the things at a go.
Yeah.
They are hydra-headed. However, I'll start first and foremost from the point of, as I said, a policy, a strategy framework. What are the areas I would look at? For example, we talk about dry dock. I mean, our dry dock has been lying there for how long? You yourself can tell.
Quite a long time. Recently, there's a bid out there to get some investors
so
in.
I'm asking myself, if I had a policy framework, where have I placed the development of the ports? Where have I put the dry dock as part of this? Where have I put my oil and gas industry at this? If all of my money is this quadrant, how much of it would I be using as far as the maritime sector is concerned? What are the things that I perceive it can generate for me in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? As I indicated, it will not come easy because other things will suffer. So I will be looking at the port as a key infrastructure. I'll be looking at the dry dock as a key infrastructure. I'll be looking at the railway. I'll put so many things aside and fix my railway, no matter what.
Very key.
No, look, I have not seen one country, that has not developed on the back of the railway line. America was opened up from east to west because of the railway line.
It's like a magical move. Once you have that, it's a drive.
It's a drive.
Straight drive.
Technology. Today, you can't do a lot without technology. So if you ask me, as I said, I'm looking at the port in terms of infrastructure, in terms of management, capacity, human resource. I'm looking at the dry dock. I'm looking at the railway. I'm looking at technology, communication. How do I get things to move, to synchronize these things and get them to work? You know, because trade is the driver for every economy. No economy can thrive without trade. And trade also needs transport. Because they are inextricably interlinked. Because among all the things, I'm saying trade is what? Critical. And if trade is critical, then I want to go for trade. But if I'm going for trade, I must go for transport. So I must get them to work together.
If you look around critically, it doesn't look like the governments that I have seen here, they think of pumping money within into the port industry. They feel that it's an already rich industry. And so they should be able to deal with themselves.
It is that thinking that makes us suffer what we suffer now.
I see.
You know, and sometimes I am loath and I shudder to think about this because, you see, every time we are talking about making Tema a hub port. And then Nigeria is talking about making Apapa a hub port. Cote d'Ivoire is talking about making Abidjan a hub port. Cameroon is building a new port. And the point is, how much are you generating in terms of cargo? You know, there is a limit to which
you keep expanding.
There is a limit to which you can bring goods in, but you need to export. Yeah. Your export base needs to be strong. Yeah. It should be the driver rather than the import, so that in the event that you are not able to have to import a lot, you can send a lot outside.
Unfortunately, the reverse is what we are seeing here.
And therefore, all the shipping lines that are coming here, especially those who are
they go empty.
They go empty, or they have to strive to get the little cocoa that is available in order to
and very
carry. Very little cocoa. I mean, when they share, sometimes when you look at the liftings of various lines over the period, it's like, you know, you go to a watch seller and it's left small in it, and so many people are gathered and they must share for everybody.
And I'm sure that even makes shipping into this country or this part of the world quite expensive, because when you come, you won't get some go back.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, for those who don't understand, the cabs
a taxi driver that is taking you to a
village.
Yeah, you know.
You go and you don't get any passenger back. For which reason you have to increase the price for bringing goods to Ghana.
To take care of the return leg.
Yeah. So I want you to advise the system. The system at the moment, whether we like it or not, has that kind of thinking that says that I'm not pumping any money into the port industry. Within the industry, they should be generating money for themselves. So His Excellency, the Vice President, for instance, touts the fact that paperless was executed without any state monies involved. Feeling that should be the case. I mean, the system should be able to drive this. And then you have port expansion, for instance. Then they will tell you that the port within its own system should be able to generate money and then expand. Government is not coming in. So we take the fact that government is not bringing money. How do we lift the system up without money come from anywhere? No sovereign guarantee whatsoever. Is it the case that we should be able to increase revenue generation from the ports, or we should still let it be like that? Trade facilitation, ensuring that. But how do we get money? How do we make the system better?
You know, we are in a very difficult situation as a developing economy, and sometimes we do penny wise, pound foolish. You know, I know that it's a very difficult thing. Sometimes when you say it, you have to say it with some circumspection, you know, because of the fact that you look at the port industry. Yes, the port can generate a lot of income, can generate an economy of its own, etc. Does government have to pump money into it? What governments need to do is an environment.
Yeah.
It is the private sector that must drive the development, like it's happening in the port. We will not see the fruits, the benefits today. But if the future is what we have in mind, we should not be worried. Okay. As long as we are doing the correct things, we are putting the bricks in the proper places, we'll build a house. How do governments create a conducive environment? You talked about paperless. You know, you are right, government did not put any money, but largely, the private sector, the support. So let us support that private sector. Where we can reduce taxes for that private sector, let us do so. Because eventually, when that private sector grows, that private sector will take on more people. We'll get opportunity to tax those people. We'll get revenues from them. When we want to get all our money straight away from the companies themselves, we may end up collapsing those companies.
Or they will run away from us. A lot of multinational companies are there.
One of the things that I have observed and which I have found in many developing economies, and it is more like a catch-22. Where do we get money to fix the economy? The port. Import duty. The point, Sam, is that we should have a plan that says that over the next 15 to 20 years, we should not be thinking about only today. We should be thinking about our children, not ourselves. Over the next 15 years.
Which is just around the corner.
Yes. We are going to put in place mechanisms that makes us reduce our reliance on import duty as a means of generating huge sums, very good, of government revenue. But if we say, look, we are getting 50% of our revenues from import duties, over this time, we'll be reducing until we come to 10% in terms of government revenue. And then we free that neck and allow trade to flow more than it does currently.
And that is what you think should be the case?
That is what should be the case.
Because now it appears that there's a pride. The state takes pride in the fact that I'm getting a lot of revenue from the port. Should that be?
But when you do that, you know, in the short term, you may be getting these revenues
and be happy because
that is where you think it is easy for you to collect these monies. But we must put in place internal mechanisms and structures that enables us to collect tax from our people.
Widen that base,
and not
even for the informal sector.
Yes, and not necessarily collecting it as import duty from the port.
Yeah, which is currently the case.
The case, and which we can do over time. So then, all of this stealing that happens, this corruption at the port, you'll find it just go down
by
itself. Today, people bring in a vehicle, or they bring in, now, you know, we want to introduce new measures to curb corruption, etc., and all of them. We have to do these things because corruption is rife. Indeed, it is true, corruption is rife. But why is it rife? It's rife because people are looking for an escape route.
Yeah.
People feel that, look,
the taxes are just too much. And so
I bring a vehicle, I need somewhere to run. Yes, you know. And I've been in this industry, you know, you have the term chifem, you know. Yeah, so, and people do these things.
It would have been better to let them pay 50 cedis and let everybody pay that 50 cedis than to say pay 200 cedis and you have a few just paying that 200
and
cedis.
Then the money does not go to government.
Yes,
it ends up going to individuals. But if our mechanisms internally are strong enough, the goods can come in. We can check on tax, like we do even with vehicles now. Customs is able to impound a vehicle to find whether duty has been paid or not, because today the technology is there to do that. And those are the things that I think we should be emphasizing, and then allowing trade facilitation, because it's a means by which we can improve the lot of our people.
So there is a huge potential within the ports and maritime industry, and it is about time as a country, if we are serious in ensuring that we have Ghana beyond aid and also be able to feed our people well, be able to grow our economy, then we should be able to harness the potential of the port industry and pay a lot of attention there. Otherwise, you become village champion. West Africa the best, Central Africa the best, but you can't go anywhere. Village champion. Well, let's move away from that conversation with Dr. MBIA, and we'll continue to have some of those conversations, critical ones, to ensure that we know what is best for our industry. In the meantime, the Ghana Journalists Association has finally listened to some of the calls that we have been pushing, particularly those of us from the port industry, that let's begin to honor some of those young and professional journalists who focus their reporting on the port industry, because it is important to expose this industry. Indeed, this year's Journalist Awards, they have recognized a journalist, a very good journalist who has been helping to expose this industry, and we all felt that it's about time to honor that young lady.
Grace Nanesi BOATENG of OMAN FM has been adjudged the Maritime Reporter of the Year at the 23rd Ghana Journalist Awards. For the first time in the history of the awards, journalists who promote and report on the maritime industry have been awarded. Nanesi BOATENG is the host of OMAN FM's Maritime and Shipping News program, which has received huge patronage from industry players. Considering the important role maritime journalism plays in economic growth of the country, the GJA believes the award category will go a long way to motivate reporters in maritime sector to feed their audience with credible news about the industry. The GJA hopes that further participation of journalists in the maritime sector will help steer the industry forward with effective and incisive reporting.
As Ghanaians, we should also be interested in the maritime and ports industry, because I mean, like I say always, it's all about us. It's not just the importer or the exporter, it's about you, the consumer, as well. So in a nutshell, I'm very happy. It has placed the industry on a stage, and the world is about to see more from us.
We'll continue to look out for a lot more journalists who will be paying their attention to this industry, and we will be honoring them, or the Ghana Journalists Association would definitely be honoring all these people. Again, let me also hint you that there is a Port and Maritime Journalists Association that will soon be backed and launched by the Ghana Journalists Association as well as that association very soon, to have all journalists join and then be able to expose the industry and also harness the potential in that industry. Away from that and moving still on to some awards, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Ghana Shippers Authority have all been awarded and honored at the Ghana Business Awards.
The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has been adjudged Government Agency of the Year at the maiden edition of the Ghana Business Awards. GPHA was recognized for its immense role in ensuring port efficiency and championing government's paperless agenda at the ports of Ghana. The technical support providers of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, West Blue Consulting, was also adjudged the Consultancy Firm of the Year at the maiden edition of the Ghana Business Awards. The Ghana Shippers Authority received Industry Leadership Award as special recognition, and Shipping Company of the Year went to Magdan Shipping. The Ghana Business Awards is a prestigious initiative that recognizes and rewards excellence across all sectors of industry in Ghana. It also provides the platform to recognize individuals and companies that play a significant role in the growth and development of business sector, while recognizing the need to dialogue on growth and sustainability among stakeholders. The Minister for Business Development, Mohammed Awal, who was the special guest of honor, charged businesses to be disciplined, utilize resources effectively, and pursue excellence in order to beat global competition.
Today, it's not just a Ghana market, it's a global market. Our products must not only meet local requirements, must break the international standards. So as we pursue awards tonight, I want to urge all of us, let's pursue excellence whatever we do, so that we can beat global competition. Do not cut corners. Take decisions to ensure it survives today and the future.
The Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Luguje, who received the award on behalf of the authority, dedicated the award to the entire management staff of GPHA.
You see that in every part of economic life, the ports are the center. So I think that for a port to play such a critical role and not be recognized, then it means that probably from the management point of view, you are not doing your work as you should. So if you have that natural dominant role to play in the life of an economy, and you also have a management team that is doing so well, naturally you will be recognized anytime there's an opportunity to do so.
He said the Port Authority will continue to play its critical role in the Ghanaian economy and offer best of services to its customers.
I'll just tell GPHA management that this award that we won is for everybody. It's for the Ports and Harbours Authority, it's for the employees from the lowest to the highest, it's for the port community, all the shipping lines and ship agencies, importers and exporters, every single entity that plays a role to make the port a port is for us. And we should see that as just the first step that we are supposed to step on and aim higher to continue to provide the best of services, so that at any given time, whether there is an award for us or not, we can always sit back and be glad that we are playing the best role to make Ghana a better place.
More awards means more responsibilities. We can only wish the winners well, including the Port and Harbours Authority and the Shippers Authority. Iron Port returns after the break.
Hello. Good morning. This is Samantha Wendy. I am sending a purchase order from SA2 Ventures International. Our policy for new supplies is 2 containers to start with, but you must deliver within 30 days.
Don't worry at all. I'm going to get you the 4 containers within 30 days or less. Bye.
To get his pineapple slices from his country to his clients overseas, Mr. Appiah and his representatives have to complete a number of regulatory compliance procedures to various international trade stakeholders.
Hey, Baba, what's going on? Get it right? I mean, how?
Using single window, Mr. Appiah has completed all his international trade procedures through one portal. He has registered his company information, applied for the necessary permit, certificates and licenses, and all that remains is for him to get a text alert for clearance and movement of goods. And that's how simple, facilitating international trade could be in a single window environment. You can offer competitive services to your trading partners in China, America, even here in a simpler, faster, and cost-effective way. Single window. The only way to Ghana's economic growth is in our hands.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead. Expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
Welcome back from the break. News and activities happening in and around the port. Next.
Shipping analyst Dynama has released its 5th biennial edition of the West Africa Worldwide Container Trade with author Darren Wade, highlighting that although container volumes barely grew between 2013 and 2017, the region is now on its way to maturity. Full container volumes forecast to reach 4.3 million TEUs by 2021 as a result of an estimated 5% annual growth rate for container cargoes. Capacity, carriers, services and sailings all came down in 2016, says Wade, but they are now all growing again. Lomé in Togo is now the major West African container port, surpassing Lagos in Nigeria. West Africa comprises 25 nations, big and small, including 5 landlocked countries. The total region encompasses around 9,700 kilometers of coastline and a land area of 12.75 million square kilometers. It accommodates over 535 million people, has a trade value of $294 billion US dollars and a GDP estimate at $802 billion US dollars. The Port of Rotterdam has entered into a 75 million euros, an equivalent of 85 million US dollars investment deal targeting the development of the Brazilian port of Passem. The agreement signed between Allard Castellan, the CEO of the Port of Rotterdam Authority, and Camilo Santana, governor of the Brazilian state of Ceará, on October 24 defines the terms of Rotterdam's investment into Passem's port industrial complex, constituting a 30% share in the enterprise. In addition, the Port of Rotterdam Authority will gain a joint say in strategic and investment decisions, as well as representation in the Brazilian Ports Executive Board, Supervisory Board, and Management. The partners expect to conclude the definite participation agreement before the end of 2018. The deal comes on the back of a memorandum of understanding signed between the port and the state government of Ceará, Brazil, in 2017.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead. Expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
Now, schedules of vessels that are sitting in the port, those that are far away at the anchorage, those expected in the coming week, plus the Bank of Ghana exchange rate you need to know to clear your goods out of the ports. Next. That's it for this week's episode of Eye on Port. Thank you for watching, and also thanks to the entire crew, particularly our new helpers, the National Service Personnel, Kada Faisal, Ernest Thompson, and Mariska. We thank you for watching. See you next week.